we're going to talk about how to become an essential church. Now, let me set the tone on this. What do I mean by an essential church? How desperate are we for our community to adopt us? We'll look at a couple things. Go ahead to the first one. Name the city.
Atlanta, Georgia.
I didn't even say it yet.
Sorry.
What's the largest sex trade and human trafficking city in America?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. Why is that significant? What is in Atlanta, Georgia?
Oh,
The
it's
bridge.
airport. State law.
Coal
Oil.
factory.
North
The
American
Coke
North
plant.
Division Board?
Beaches.
The Southern Baptist Convention's headquarters, and about 3 other major denominations. Do you know that in Christianity, Atlanta, Georgia is known as Mecca? It's where everybody is. It's a hub. It's a hub for Christianity, and yet it's the worst city in America for the sex trade. Go on. Do we have impact? Recently, a European study was done in America where the question was asked, what impact does Christianity have on society? They studied a city widely known for the number of people who regularly attend church. The city that they studied was Atlanta, Georgia. The conclusion was, Christianity makes no net positive contribution to society. The conclusion was that Christianity makes no positive contribution to society. Wow. Next slide. We need to be asking the right questions. And I want you to hear my heart of this. Too many churches are selfish. Too many churches look at, let's hold on to what we have and not give anything away. There's a mindset. So the questions that we have to ask are, and here's a good question. What is God doing in our community? Luke 10, which is going to be the text that I'm going to go back and forth today, where Jesus was sending out his disciples. In the first verse of Luke 10, you can kind of like stick your finger there today. It says this, "Now after this, the Lord chose and appointed 70 others, and sent them out ahead of him, 2 by 2. He was sending them where he was going. The first question I think we really have to ask when we look at our community, what's God doing? Because he has called us, has he not? He has provided our means, has he not? The whole purpose of the exercise of what we're doing this morning is the fact that we're supposed to, what? Go and make disciples. So we have, the first question we have to say is, what's God doing in our community? Well, there's a better question. If my church closed tomorrow, would anyone notice? Anybody care? I've got a bunch of pastors that I'm friends with that are Methodist. I was raised Methodist. Do you know the 3 closest Methodist churches to the Foundry have closed in the last 6 months? 2 of which I didn't know who the pastor was. Would anybody care if your church closed tomorrow? Other than grabbing up the land. And by the way, nobody's quickly grabbing up the land on these churches. Old Union, launched in 1804. Gone. It's now nursery school. Packer Memorial Media, closed. Probably going to end up somebody's art studio or photography studio. One in Parkside is now a Pentecostal church. Would anybody care? The best question. How can our church become the foundation pillar and essential to our community? How can our community not do without us? Have you ever thought that way about what our church should be? It's something that's a part of how we're wired as a church, as the Foundry. It's something that's engrafted into our DNA as a church. There's a phrase that I learned from the president of Widener. We sat down one day, and he was talking about his philosophy of ministry. I call it philosophy of ministry because it is so parallel to what the church teaches. His attitude as the president of the university was to layer the university into the community and for the community to layer itself into the college. That the faith community would become conduits where students can learn to best go serve the world. Well, that is exactly what God wants a church to be. We are to look for every opportunity to layer who we are and what we are into our community. My question is, if we're doing a small group, why is it not in Barnes & Noble? First small group I started at, second small group I started at within this church, we did at Borders.
Oh, I know why it's not meeting at Borders.
Well, Borders is no longer there. That's a whole other discussion for another day. However, we have to have this philosophy of church without walls. That we're layering ourselves into the community and that we are allowing the community to layer themselves into us. AA meeting here. My daughter is now getting her cello lessons here, and we're now discussing with BYPO, maybe we have extended the offer if you need a place to meet for your 40 orchestral students to rehearse. Be here. Other organizations. Go ahead. So where do we start? It's important to understand that we must move beyond the sanctuary if we're to see community transformation. It's not just about the building a church, but building the kingdom. Hear me. We are called to build a kingdom, not just an individual church. If you're building the kingdom, you're going to start multiple churches. Why? Because we need to start multiple churches. Do you know today, to reach the 16 million people in Pennsylvania, South Jersey, we need to start 10,000 churches this morning to just handle the people that are here. You know, for every one church in our region, the Northeast region, one church for every 45,000 plus people. That's how lack of kingdom there is in this region. Go ahead. So how do we engage community? I wanted to celebrate the moment because I did this talk with guys because guys were saying, how do we do this? You come out of seminary, nobody knows how to engage community. Sorry, I was an outreach pastor and a youth guy and a worship guy before I became a senior pastor. This is what I cut my teeth on. My job was to jump over the side of the ship and to go to the next ship and take the hill or whatever. I mean, that's what I was designed to do. That's how God wired me. And I want us to look at how we engage in community because we are doing it incredibly well. So much so that we've been recognized out of the 400 plus churches in PA, South Jersey as the best church. Frightening as it may seem, that we're the very best at something. But we are. You are. Because you're doing a lot of this. Go to the first slide. Intentional community engagement. We select key community issues as a church that we are wired through our giftedness to engage. And I'm going to explain that as we go. Second thing is, our intention is to empower people to do good in the areas that they're passionate. Listen, we shouldn't be doing everything as a church, but you should be. There are key things that we, as a body of Christ, are wired to go do, which we should do. But there's stuff that you're wired to go do that we should be helping you to be empowered to go do. And if we're both focusing on how we're wired to go do, we're going to expand the kingdom. Community issues. I'm going to explain how we came to these conclusions, but you know that childhood hunger is a problem. 1st Congressional District of Pennsylvania, 1 out of 3 kids are going to bed hungry every night. That's a huge issue. You can't give them Jesus if their bellies are aching. You can, but they're not going to listen. Extreme financial and educational diversity. Wallingford-Swarthmore School District is in the top 15 in the state of Pennsylvania. Chester is in the 3rd worst school district in America. Extreme educational diversity. Extreme wealth. Poverty, 2nd wealthiest community outside of Radnor in our county. Third thing, multi-ethnic community. First of all, there's 70 nations here in Wallingford. 70 nations, which means nobody looks like anybody else. 37%, according to the US Census, are Jewish, which means we don't deal with that, figure out what that means, we're writing off 40% of our neighborhood. Extreme political differences with no town center. There's no sense of community in this region. And do you know every ward was specifically set up to be geared towards a political party? There are some wards that are 95% Democrat. There are some wards that are 95% Republican. Guess what? When there are 6 wards or 8 wards and they're split down the middle, you have extreme what? Yes. Strong artsy community. It's very artistic here. I could give you a laundry list of about 20 things that are going here that's artistic. And last but not least, a large collegiate children and youth population. Combined, in Delaware County, there's 180,000 people under 25. 180,000 people. Less than 3% are in any church, Catholic or otherwise. Go ahead. Here's our strengths. This is what we determined in the last 5 years. One, you know our average age is 30, and half of you are single. If you look at the Sunday night church and the Sunday morning church, large percentage of members are artists. That is a strange, unique dynamic all on its own. Our people are passionate about social issues. You guys are very passionate. I can tell you, with having coffee with many of you, you have very, very strong views on very strong issues. Going back to the fact that we're extremely young as a church, our people are more willing to serve than give. What do I mean by that? Well, most churches, the key population of the church is well over 55. People well over 55 tend to give more and do less. Younger churches tend to go do more and give less. By the way, you give nicely from your population, but it's just a fact. Large percent of our members are from the region. Most of you are from around here. And few of our people come from a church background. Do you know in our key leadership we have a saved Mormon, saved Jehovah's Witness, saved Catholics. We're a Baptist church. How many of you are actually Baptist? It's like 5 or 6 of us. Yeah, go on. So, intentional community engagement. Let's go. Let's go through this real quick. Let's talk about how we are engaging the community. We isolated and looked at very specific needs that we came across. Need number 1, we looked at campus. And we've layered ourselves onto the Widener University campus. We have the Forge on Sunday nights. Logos. Go ahead. This is what we've accomplished on campus. We have church service, brown bag lunch for commuters, Logos student work. We do an international student Thanksgiving dinner that we partner with another local church. We do food for finals. We are involved with alternative spring breaks and mission trips. We are becoming a true conduit for students to come to us and say, how can we do community service? Do you know this week we gave almost 100 Bibles to the entire football team? Is that cool or what? Go ahead, next slide. We also, over the last 5 years, have elevated the discussion of apologetics. Michael Kona has come at least 7 times in the last 5 years, and we've impacted Westchester, Drexel, Temple, Widener, and other schools. We've also done an incredible amount of street art. When you go to talk to the director of campus safety, and you go, hi, he goes, oh, it's you. Last time I saw you, I was yelling at you for doing street art. Go ahead. We do community building. Do you know this spring we sent a group of students out, our youth group, with a group of students from Ohio, and we cleaned toilets and washed windows. We did 42 businesses in Brookhaven. It ended up in the Daily Times. Someone loved the fact that we did that. That's Muhammad. He owns a Shell station. May I suggest that all of you start buying your gas from Muhammad at the Shell station. May I suggest if you need milk, he's just as cheap as Wawa. Buy it from Muhammad. Why? He's there 16 hours a day. His family is in Pakistan. He literally knows no one. And actually said, you know, I cannot believe that your church was willing to come clean a Muslim's bathroom. He actually asked for this photo, and it's against his religion, but he wanted a photo to send home to his kids. to do Dad was okay. Here's someone who is open to the gospel, someone who, a sweet man. I've never gone in there and had to pay for coffee. It's like, please, please, take something, take something. I don't want anything. No, 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 please, please, take something. Go love on this guy. Go love on this guy. Next. Community coffee and street outreach. We have done this countless times. To the point, the last time we did it at Swarthmore, the local coffee shop came over and said, hey, next time you do this, here's my card, call me, I'll brew the coffee and donate it so you don't have to lug it here. Wow. Let's see what the people in the Daily Times said about this. Thanks for the free cup of joe. This is just a month or so ago. I want to thank you wonderful people from the Foundry Church for giving out free coffee today. It was absolutely soul-warming to talk to those great people. I say hats off for them for being such a strong foundation in our community. God bless them. That's what they're saying about you, that you are a strong foundation. I cried. I cried when I read this in the newspaper. This was in the newspaper. This is what people.
It wasn't just the newspaper. It was the section of the newspaper where people complain about things.
We've been in actually the sound off section 7 times this year. The sound off section is what they. I'll be polite and nice to say it's the gripe and moan section. It's where I hate everybody section. We've been in there positive 7 times. Positive. And I don't know who these people are, but they know us and they're watching. We don't do an Easter egg hunt. Do you know that we do the community's Easter egg hunt? I got a thing in the Daily Times because of this. I got a complimentary email from several politicians saying, thank you for starting our community's Easter egg hunt. Thank you for doing something that we couldn't do ourselves.
And
go ahead.
To add to that, because I happen to be the guy at the table filling out forms for kids who wanted their pictures taken. The number of parents who came up to me and were like, what's this cost? How much is this?
Yeah.
It's free. Free? Yeah, it's from the church. It's free. Blown away.
By the way, we're going to go ahead to the next slide. By the way, Easter egg, 200 plus people. This, we will do our 5th annual Light the Night in 2 weeks. We need more candy, okay? We have been averaging for 5 years 150 to 160 bags of candy, little bags of candy, to every kid in the neighborhood. In one night, we will meet every family in the neighborhood. This year, we're offering a photo op for kids to get pictures of their costume that we will email to the parents, their kid's picture. Do you know that Chick-fil-A is coming and they're bringing a cow for the photo op? Do you know that Chick-fil-A has donated 150 free coupons for kids' meals that we will give out with our church flyer for kids program? Do you know that Kyle's dad is a farmer in Virginia and is driving up his traveling petting zoo, so we will have a petting zoo that night in the parking lot of rabbits and goats and chickens, oh my. Yes. But do you guys realize that we also give out hot cider and coffee, and we've done hot dogs in the past, and parents will hang out and say, I cannot believe your church does this. This is so rock and cool. Do you know that Halloween is the most spiritual holiday in America, where every Halloween I have incredible spiritual conversations with people because it's All Hallows Eve. We call it Halloween. Do you know why? How many stupid Christian phrases, harvest party, how many stupid obstacles do we put in people's path for them to jump over to get to Jesus? We celebrate Halloween. It's a spiritual holiday. This is the stuff you guys are doing. By the way, 20 or 30 of you would show up in some of the most weirdest costumes that I've ever seen in my life. I avoided showing pictures of this, but I do have some of them on my phone if you want to see them later.
And it's on Facebook.
Go ahead. Kids Garden VBS. We had 15 kids this year. Here's a really cool thing. Penn State University, the one with all the problems, the extension program. Lady said, quote, on Facebook, With volunteers like that, you can change the world. Professor from Penn State. Penn State has offered to come every year now to do the nutritional component. And they're now offering everything from ladies' workout programs to diabetes counseling to everything under the sun that we could be hosting here as a church. Community cleanup. I want you to hear this. The township requested us to fix a problem. Yes, they showed up with front-end loaders. Yes, they showed up with dump trucks. Yes, they showed up with 6 employees. But we had 40 people here cutting out the jungle of a neighbor's yard. The code enforcement officer, we brought them all back for lunch. Code enforcement officer checked out our building, loved it, sent me a really incredible thank you note later for helping her solve a problem that she had no means of fixing. It would have cost the township thousands of dollars to do it, and we did it. Next one. Martin Luther King Day, it's our 5th year. And you'll see a little bit of this in a second, but literacy is an issue that we adopted. We had 80 people one year there fixing things. What are some of the things that we've done with literacy, you might ask? Well, we do our bread program every Monday night. We give away bread. You know what happens? We give away bread. Library does a flyer. Hey, you're a single mom? You don't have a library card? Come get a library card. Get a free loaf of bread. And a Bible. And a tract. And information about other wraparound programming that we can help bless your family with. At the same time, come back next week. Check out a book for your kid. Get a free loaf of bread. Go on. Here's some of the things that we've done. We've done. We pressure washed the entire building. We've painted the interior 3 times. We have, since 2009, have done 2,232 volunteer hours. You guys. Bread for Life program, increased the library usage. By the way, I've been to this library over the last 6 years. It's gone from being empty to the place rocks. The place is constantly full of people now. Children's books, you have collected 3,292 books for the kids program, to the point where the shelves went from half empty to completely full, to the books we are now giving, they are packaging up to go into public schools, to give away to kids, to encourage them, if they read a book, they get a book. And by the way, the books that you are still collecting are Christian books. So we are now just not filling the library with Christian books. The library is now taking our Christian books and giving them out in the Chester Public Schools as a reward for kids. Is that rocking cool or what?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but those books are not just staying in the Chester Library.
Yes.
They are going throughout the county.
Yes, so if you live in Springfield or Upper Darby and the book that we have donated, the Christian book, if you want it for your library, you can request it and they'll ship it to your library. And when you take it back to the library, it stays in your library. So we can infiltrate all 39 other libraries that way, as you guys ask for books. Cool thing. Oh, by the way, 2 people were led to Christ in the library. I mentioned this is the public library. Is that cool or what? People, they're like, what? Wait a minute, public, anti-God public library? No, most of the staff are believers now. That's another thing that we prayed for. Keep going. We engage through the arts. This is cool. Go ahead. Do you know that we've done school assembly programs? We bring in musical groups and take them into schools. Did I mention that it's a Catholic school? That we take Christian groups into Catholic schools and afterwards the kids are allowed to interview and talk to the... Yeah, it's kind of cool. Next one. 4th of July, we do our American Roots thing. Do you know that that is our single best in the building event every year? 80 to 100 people. Almost all visitors. Keep going. Filmmaking. He's not here, but I'm going to brag on Crispy. Crispy is sort of now in the Hall of Fame for independent filmmaking in Philadelphia. He's won another award for his current film. The center one, Bill and Kathy Mackey helped a young guy up in the Somerton area to make a movie called The Harry Godfather. I love it. George's daughter did a musical track for that CD, for that movie. It's a 10-minute short about, the girl cries out for her fairy godmother, and poof, this big guy shows up, Gondorf type looking individual, says, sorry, the women are on strike, you got me out of retirement. I'm your Harry godfather. By the way, Michael has been in Deadwood. He's been in the Pirates movie with Johnny Depp. And he, along with a bunch of other actors, you guys are sharing Christ with. It's an amazing thing. And lastly, they needed a bar scene for a movie, and we turned our sanctuary into a dinner theater so that they could shoot a movie here. Keep going. This is some of the stuff that we do in the arts. We host an indie film night, giving secular artists a chance to share their stuff. We do have standards. Relevant Flicks. We have a monthly small group study where we show a secular film and have to discuss the God moments afterwards. Project 21, church members are part of Project 21, competing and making movies. We do matinees. We're planning now a family film festival for the future. We're doing an Indie Youth TV on Monday nights where we're teaching kids marketable skills. Our podcast, radio. We're streamed into 20 countries through our radio program and actually have response from 20 countries. Plus we're supporting and having discussions with artists on how to build their careers. That's cool. What a church can do. Go ahead. Activism. Something I do. I'm going to show. Now here's where we're transitioning. I'm going to show you how we do all this in a minute, but I want you to hear this. This is what I do. What could you do? Because you should be empowered to go do stuff that God puts on your heart. Joy and I started a number of years ago, in 1997, LifeWorks. It was called Junior Apostles Ministries in the very beginning, but we were burdened as youth people to go out and impact young people. We started a 501c3. Go ahead. We started the food pantry. Do you know this year we've moved over 10,000 pounds of food? We do not have a van. We have borrowed space that the church is lending us upstairs. We moved 10,000 pounds of food out of that room, plus another 500 pounds of produce out of the garden this year. How do we know that? We weigh it. Why did we do that? 1 out of 3 kids are hungry. How do you talk to a kid who's starving, who's asking for food, and give him Jesus? Jesus said, you give them a cup of cold water, you clothe them, you love them, you feed them. Then you have the conversation. So we had to start this. We had to. We had to meet the need. Keep going. We got a grant from Home Depot. Here's how long it took the Home Depot. It took 2 years. It took 55 phone calls. It took 9 meetings. It took 2 grant proposals that were 20 pages each for them to say yes. That's what it took to get $2,500 worth of materials. And by the way, 6 store managers to come and actually build the garden. That took 2 years. It's doable. It just takes work. Keep going. These are the partners that we've raised up in the last 2 years. It's pretty cool. Hunger awareness. There's a card in the back on the little purple table back there. We're trying to raise money. We feed on average between 300 and 500 people a month with bread and groceries right now. It gives new meaning to feeding the 5,000. But you know, we do all that we do on less than 35 grand a year. It's including paying me. We probably spend about 6-7 grand on food right now. And we're feeding close to 5,000 people a year. How much more could we do? Anyway, 10,000 villages. The Wednesday after Black Friday, we're doing a sale with a cause where 15% of everything sold at 10,000 villages that day. We'll go to LifeWorks for the food program. It's our No Empty Bowls campaign, focusing on breakfast items for kids, because most kids, 50% of the kids in Delaware County are getting all their nutrition from either school breakfast or school lunch that the school's providing. Most are not getting dinner. We did a mural with some of your help in downtown Media on Plum and State Street that we took up the entire intersection. And that, by the way, this is what the next day was in the Daily Times. Thanks for the hunger awareness. Do you know the lady in the hot dog cart at the courthouse has asked for 1,000 flyers that she will put in every bag of every hot dog that she sells to help promote the event? She's Catholic. Sweet lady. This is making a difference. This is the fact that this is enabling us to give out tracts. This is enabling us to share Bibles. We've given out over 400 Bibles this year. This is sowing seed into people's lives, sharing the gospel with people in a very, very practical, need-meeting basis. Keep going. God gave us a cottage. Joy and I are campground members, and we were at a prayer meeting, and an elderly lady came up to me and she said, I heard your prayer for being able to house student missionaries in the summer. Because, you know, having so many single people, who many of which still live at home in their parents' basement, it's really difficult to find places to house students. And NAM has approved us to have 4 students next summer. We needed a place to house them. Lady came forward and said, I want to give you a $30,000 3-bedroom bungalow. God gave it to us. God gave it to us. Next summer, we have a place to house students there. Praise Jesus. Keep going. Radio. We're going to mentor kids. I'm a youth guy. I'm a senior pastor, but I'm a youth guy. I started this church because we didn't have a single church doing its work to reach young people. There's 155,000 kids between 6th and 12th grade in this county. Josh McDowell did the math. He told me that less than 3% of those kids are in any church, anywhere, at any time. There's 1.4 million kids in the Philadelphia market under 25. Young people under 25. We started a radio program. You know, when we started LifeWorks back in 1997, we were publishing a magazine for kids, written by kids for kids. It was a mentoring program. At any given time, we had upwards of 20 kids participating locally that would show up for meetings. And then kids around the country would send us poetry and short stories. And we had a website. It was really a cool thing. When we came here, after our first year here in 2001, we discontinued doing the magazine because it was costing, at that time, $900 a month out of our pocket for printing. We couldn't afford it. We just couldn't afford to print it. Do you know, for 4 years, we kept getting articles written by kids, poetry written by kids, to the point I had a stack like this. Well, with our radio program, we're going to digital media. With YouTube and our radio program, we're giving kids the opportunity to publish their stories and tell their stories. We're going to mentor them. We're going to raise up the next generation of videographers and journalists and filmmakers. We're going to give young people a chance to have a voice. It's my passion. This is what I'm doing. What are you doing? It's a challenge. I want you to think about this. There are areas of ministry as a church that are non-negotiable that we must do. But there are individual areas as God has touched your heart, whether it's through sports or literacy or drug and alcohol rehab, or whatever God has put at camping, whatever. And I have a buddy who's doing a fishing program for kids. Saturday morning, he takes 40 kids, loads them up in buses, and takes them to teach them how to fly fish. And has a Bible study with them. It's his personal ministry. All of us should be part of a church that is doing ministry. But all of us should also have a ministry that we are doing. It's incredibly important. Keep going. So how do we engage? Go ahead. Look at this real quick. This is our discipleship process at the Foundry. We want you to embrace your giftedness. When we set this whole church up, we did a community needs assessment and said, okay, here is what the needs are in the community. We did a spiritual gift assessment of our people. How are we wired? And if you haven't taken a spiritual gift assessment, you need to. You need to determine how God has wired you. We took how God has wired us, we looked at how the community needs were, and we matched the two up. We said, let's pick 2 or 3. We picked the arts, we picked literacy, we picked campus ministry. Because there were 3 areas that our people were really wired to do. So we're going to have this outward community engagement. We're going to go out and do stuff. That's what we do. By the way, you go out and do stuff, you're going to experience sacrificial living. You're going to get involved in people's lives. And guess what? God's going to give you intentional relationships that you are building. And guess what happens? You meet people, you get involved in people's lives, and all of a sudden they ask you questions. All of a sudden, God is going to drive you in your heart to the Word of God because you want answers to help that person that you're falling in love with, that you care about. That's making a disciple. That's going and making a disciple. And that's how you make disciples. You're not going to get stuck in meetings here. You're not going to get stuck in having to go through class after class after class after class. No, we're going to take you out into a lab experiment called life. And you're going to meet people. some of your brothers and sisters, some of your family members, some of your next door neighbors. You're going to get involved in their lives, and guess what? You're going to have questions. You're going to come back and say, "Here, Chuck, John." You're going to come back and say, "Guys, what do I do with this?" And guess what? Now we're going to get into the Word of God. And we're going to show you in the Word of God how to have an answer for that. That's real discipleship. That's how Jesus did it. Boy, we prayer walk. I'm sad to say that we are not prayer walking anywhere near what we used to. Go ahead. Key number 1, bathe your community in prayer. This was for pastors. If I don't do it, you'll never do it. I try to prayer walk 1 day a week. I have some spots that I go to, and I sit and pray and I walk. You know, at one point in time, we were doing it 20 to 24 times a year as a church when we started. We're doing about 5 right now. You go out and start walking and praying, God will show you stuff. Every mission team that comes, we have anywhere from 5 to 9 mission teams a year that come and they prayer walk. Everywhere where we've prayer walked consistently for the last 5 years is where we are having spiritual freedom and breakthroughs. There's no separation. Where we are praying, we are seeing breakthroughs. Go ahead. Talk to people. This is how you engage community. This is what I do. This is what you should do. You know somebody, you're talking to somebody, you want to see them come to Christ, how can I pray for you? How can I pray for you? I was in a meeting for Wheat and Seed at Senator Santorum's office. At the end of the meeting, I went up and said, "Excuse me, but I'm just a pastor, but how can I pray for you?" He asked for my card. The following Monday, his executive secretary sent me his itinerary for the week. And every week, until Senator Santorum was no longer a senator, I got his complete itinerary for the week to pray for. All I said was, "Excuse me, sir, how may I pray for you?" Think about this. You have a client, you have a boss, you have a neighbor, you have a local commissioner, you have a school librarian, you have a school principal. When was the first time you said to that person, "Is there anything I can be praying for you about?" in confidence? I'm telling you, that will change your view of the world. It will change your impact on the community because it builds trust and rapport with people. You start praying for people personally, you getting to know them, they will share. If they know you're genuine and real, they will share their innermost being with you. And in time, you will have a God conversation with them where you'll see transformation in their life. And you do that enough times, we do that enough times as a church, all of a sudden we become essential to this community. All of a sudden they can't live without us. All of a sudden they will hear a need. I needed a snowplow driver one winter because apparently we had a late storm and our snowplow guy was in the Bahamas. And we were going to have church on Sunday. And I sent an email, and I didn't realize 2 township guys were on the email. Our township commissioner borrowed a pickup truck with a snowplow and came and plowed our parking lot for us. He said, I've got to help you guys. I cannot tell you how many times that has happened in our community where someone in the community has heard a need because of what we were doing, because of the relationships that we've been building with people, and they showed up and said, half of our volunteers with our garden are people who don't go to this church, who don't go to any church. Half of our volunteers with the food pantry are not church members. Some of them aren't even Christians. Do you understand? This is the Celtic way. This is how St. Patrick changed the world. This is his method. Go ahead. 3. Here's some questions you just can ask. When you're talking to a community leader, what do you like about the community? Who's making the greatest impact? What's the greatest need? How can we help? Who can we partner with to help with a solution? How can I pray for you? These are the questions that I ask every single person I come across as a community leader. This is how we are engaging. Keep going. Do your homework. Well, you got to check. You got to say, listen, why do we do the library? Because there's 7 soup kitchens in Chester. I was praying. I said, God, there's got to be something more that we can do than what everybody else is doing. We don't do homeless ministry. Why? Because everybody's doing homeless ministry. We ended up at the library. And that's an interesting story, which we'll save for another day. Go ahead. 3, determine the giftedness. Provide spiritual gift test. I have them. If you have never taken a spiritual gift test, make an appointment with me. I will sit down. It's 72 questions. And by the end of those 72 questions, which you do all on your own, you will know how God wired you. You determine how a church is wired. Do you know that when we started, we had no teachers? Squat-top. 0. We had 5 people with the gift of leadership. We had 9 people with the gift of helps. I said, oh Lord, how many mercy people? 11. I said, I guess we're going to do social justice mercy. Why? Because that's how God wired us. God didn't wire us to start a school. He wired us to go serve. Wow. It's that simple. Go. We have become an essential church. Wallingford wants us. Swarthmore wants us. North Chester wants us. Widener loves us. Do you hear that? We're an evangelical church. They know we're going to give them Jesus. The quote I got from a major person in the community, listen, go do what an evangelical is supposed to do, and we will apologize for you later. Is that cool? This is what kingdom's all about. This is what Christianity is all about. And I wanted to celebrate this. You can take it off, Jeff. I wanted to celebrate this because in Luke 10, it says our prime directive is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, our soul, all our being, all our mind, and our neighbor as ourselves. As a church, we have accomplished loving our neighbor. We're not done yet, but we have figured it out. We have figured it out, folks. And I want you to know that you have figured it out. It's not just the leadership team here. It's all of us. Jimmy, what you're doing, man, with your Tuesday morning group blows me away. Do you know that I had people telling me that your group is one of the strongest groups in our county? Praise God, man. This is Jimmy's group. It's not the church group. It's Jimmy's group. Bless you, man. I wish I had 50 more guys like you. I really mean that. From the bottom of my heart. Listen, guys. Yes. We are making a difference. This is what we've been able to accomplish in 5 years. I came with a 10-year plan. We're only 40% of the way there. But we're well on the way to where God wants us. If we do this, if we keep doing this community will never, ever be the same, and I will die a happy man. My one prayer was, God, I want a single thriving church to go ahead that impacts young people. That was my heart person. My simple prayer starting out. And we are well on our way. We are well on our way. And it's because of your willingness to serve. So, I'm giving you some praises to this day. If you're new, join with us. You know, I'm not saying become a member. I'm saying just hang with us and do what we're doing. If God leads you to join, praise Jesus. If not, just hang with us. You know? If you're new and you're already involved, press in on this, man. I'm telling you. You could drive a fleet of Peterbilts through the hole that God has opened in Delaware County. We have barely begun to do what we need to do. But we have done some incredible things that most churches are sitting back saying, I don't know how you do that. Why don't we just do it? We just believe God and did it.
And the churches that are saying, I don't know how you do it, are churches that have budgets 10, 20 times ours.
Yeah.
These are churches that have resources, and they're like, how?
Okay, I have a friend. I'm going to wrap this up because our church budget's 40 grand right now. LifeWorks is about 35 grand. So that's $75,000 of ministry that we're doing, okay? We had no staff. We're either volunteers or we're bivocational. Bivocational means we work a job to do what we're doing, okay? I'm not complaining about any of that. But when a guy who has 3 satellite churches and a Sunday morning church with 4 services that are running 4,000 who has a budget of $10 million says to you, I don't know how to get my church to do what you're doing, but could you come teach my staff? We have something very special here, and it's rare in the kingdom of God, unfortunately. We need to celebrate it. As Moses said in the book of Numbers to the Israelites, you need to build a memorial and never forget what God's doing here, because God is doing something here. God is doing something in our midst. And I wanted to take a day and just celebrate the milestone, because of how you do what you do, why you do what you do, and how you go about doing what you do. People now want to come hang with us and learn that. And don't be surprised when people show up and I send them out with a Jim or Steve or somebody in the room and say, go show them what we do. It's exciting. This is kingdom. We live in the book of Acts. Praise Jesus.